All right, we are live. What is this? Good it's morning for me still yet, but what is it? Right about lunchtime for you. So welcome,
Yeah.
Curtis.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mark.
Yeah. So MJ, if anyone was tuning in to hopefully see MJ, he's not gonna be able to make it today. He got called in for work, so he apologizes. And Stan, I'm not sure where Stan is, but we're just gonna get started, man. So yeah, so I've been thinking about it. A lot of people, kind of thinking about their finances and their plan for retirement or their goals, right? So I know a lot of people talk about the fire movement, and there's also a lot of people that are saying the fire movement is done and dead. Or so, what's your thoughts on that, or what's your view on the fire movement?
Yeah, so the fire movement is interesting because it seems like a lot of that community focuses on stocks. And I could see, especially with the downturn the markets had with the past week or two, how some folks can really see that as, oh, fire is not possible because the stocks are down. How are you supposed to live off of that? And that sucks for the people that invested in that, but I feel like fire is definitely still possible for those that do it through real estate because it's a little bit more consistent if you do the long term buy and hold.
Very true. Yeah, I think there's different ways and different approaches, and no one's saying there's one way is the best way to do it. There's multiple ways to do it, but what would you say would in your maybe before you even got started in this journey,
Mhm.
what would be your if someone said the fire movement to you, like what would be your first thought about it?
Yeah, probably when I first thought about it, I would think of those people that would work remotely and they could travel all over. I started my investing kind of knowledge around 2020, and around that time, things were locked down, but you would see the movement with people, internationally, and then being able to live the life that they want. So that's kind of what my first thought was.
Cool. So
And,
Stan, welcome. Thanks for joining us, man.
sorry about
You
that.
met Curtis
Right
before,
before
right?
you got on. Was that?
You met Curtis before, right?
I'm not sure if we did a podcast together yet.
Yeah,
I
I don't
think I remember
recall.
it from one of your other episodes. I can't remember which one though.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, we're just getting started, kind of talking about the fire movement, and a lot of people thinking that the fire movement is maybe done and gone, and people aren't trying to achieve that. So maybe what would be your thought on that, or what is your view on what the fire movement is all about?
For me, it's just about getting a little bit of financial freedom. Find a way to essentially pay for your own, be able to not need to depend on other people for money, not need to rely on an employer. Uh, I think people are still trying to achieve it. But it's kind of very very hard. It's one of those things where it's not too difficult to do in theory, but in practice it's much more difficult. Because anytime you start talking about the fire movement, it requires making substantial life choices that may be uncomfortable at the time, and it requires doing that for a prolonged amount of time. I think the easiest kind of comparison I can come up with is think of every year everyone has a New Year's resolution. So around January, everyone's in the gym because they decided to make that their resolution. But come February, March, all of a sudden the gym is completely empty again because it's very easy to say, "Oh, I want to get in shape, so I'm going to keep going to the gym every single day." But it's very difficult, so a lot of people drop off, and that's after a month or two they drop off. But if we're talking about something like the fire movement, we're not talking about something they need to do over a course of months. We're talking about something that you need to do consistently over years and years and years. So it's much more difficult to for people to put themselves in that kind of uncomfortable position intentionally for a matter of years.
Yeah, we got Janitor on Fire stopping by, so go check out his YouTube, his growing quickly YouTube channel. So I have his in the comments. And Hyder is back, but he says he likes that. He's Post on there. So Post on there put financially independent recreational employment is how he would look at the fire movement.
That's actually
Um,
pretty good.
yeah, no, I like that. So that's a very good one. But the one thing too, me and Curtis kind of touched on a little bit off camera before we actually got started was I didn't really realize. how many different type of fire movements there are, I guess. Like there's different levels to it. Like some people look at a lean fire, fat fire. There's even one barista fire, coast fire. So there's actually different levels or maybe plans for it. Have you guys ever thought that deeply, or is there a certain fire that you guys are like focusing on, a certain movement?
Personally, I know I've heard of all those. Personally, I'm all about the FatFIRE. It would be nice to not having to work is nice, but at the same time, I don't want to just sit around and go to the park every day. I'd like something a little bit more than that. So for me, I'm not really the kind of person who wants the overall extravagant life. I don't need I don't need a Rolls Royce. I don't need high end luxury Armani suits, but I do enjoy traveling a lot. So I do want to. My goal is still to achieve fire, but it's to achieve fire and enjoy a not overall luxurious life, but be able to afford travel, be able to afford life experiences. So kind of enjoy the nice stuff in life as well.
So you said fat fire, right?
Yeah.
So this is what the kind of definition that came up when I put that in. It said this version is for those who want to retire early but maintain or even increase their current standard of living. Fat Fire typically requires a larger savings goal, often several $1 million, to support a more comfortable lifestyle. So I guess that's looking at it more from like a stock portfolio perspective. I mean,
Yeah.
are you looking at it from like a cash flow number?
For me, I'm thinking about multiple avenues. I do go pretty hard on real estate, but at the same time, I also have I've got my retirement portfolio as well. So I've got money I've been putting aside to that. So it's just the overall combination of total cash flow between the real estate and using some strategies like the 4% rule on stocks or living off dividends from stocks. There's multiple ways to accomplish it. It's just a matter of how do you want to get your revenue going? How do you want to what machine do you want to create that's going to generate money into your pocket without needing to rely on other people to do it for you?
Very true. Oh, Frank is here, old guy REI. Maybe if he reaches, he says he'll settle for any kind of fire. Yeah. Well, maybe he can he'll get a new email account. He won't have AOL on his email if he reaches fire. But what about you, Curtis? Is there a certain fire that you kind of are targeting, or now that you looked into it, understanding the different types of fires, I guess there are?
Yeah, I had no idea there were so many types that at first. But I think the first fire was kind of that lean one. The way that I looked at it was kind of in steps. Uh, I feel like that once I can kind of reach the lean one, where the investments now can take care of my bills, then I feel like that's kind of the first step, and can even allow me or other people to kind of take more bold risk to kind of reach that fat five.
I think the big thing too is understanding that retirement is not necessarily an age, right? I think that's kind of like the number one thing. Because if you're just looking at it, the typical, 65 or whatever, that's my retirement age, and then you work backwards from that, then it's like, you can still have a good retirement. It's just you might think that you have 25 or 40 years or whatever to kind of hit that point. Right? And if you retire at 64, you're technically retiring early, right? Whereas I think a lot of people in our community are starting to realize now, like, it doesn't have to be an age, right? Like, I want to be done by 50, or I want to be done by a younger. It doesn't have to be this standard age that they've told us that 65 is when you retire and that's when retirement happens. Um, yeah, Mikey says he's gonna be or BuzzTune said he's gonna be a passport bro. I think that's his fire goal. But thanks for stopping by. This is better. This is a better time for him. He's usually up at this time. Janitor on Fire says 35 trillion in national debt. Hold on to your assets. Very true. Yep, very true. Yeah, there's a lot of
The
wild things going on right now.
the passport idea, it's not a bad idea at all. It's one way that you can actually get to fire faster. I mean, if you're looking at the United States, if you're planning on retirement inside the United States, rent, let's pretend, is currently $2,000 for rent. You need to go get groceries, another $100 per month. You need gas in your car, or you need to get a car in general. That's another $400 a month. So we're talking about living comfortably in the United States, five, six, $7,000 a month maybe. But if you go to somewhere where the cost of living is a lot lower, all of a sudden, some place where rent's not $2,000 a month, rent is $500 a month for something that's high quality, where you don't no longer need to spend $100 a week on groceries. You can get by on $100 a month and still eat very, very well. So that is an alternative way to achieve fire. For me, fire it requires two things, one of two things: either find a way to decrease your expenses or find a way to increase your revenue. If you can find a way to decrease your expenses by moving to somewhere that is much more cost effective, that is a very good strategy for being able to achieve fire much, much quicker.
So that would also be considered geofire, another
Yeah.
level. Yeah. So I think, yeah, those are all great points. I mean, and I think that, I see it a lot in Hawaii in a sense where we have a lot of people that retire here, but they've built their wealth in lower cost of living areas, or they had a business in other areas, and that's how they built their wealth. And now they brought their money here to retire and enjoy the weather and the kind of laid back lifestyle. Let's see, janitor on fire. What did he say here? Geographic arbitrage is definitely the way to go if you can live somewhere else. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's super important. I mean, there's so many ways to do it, but it's really like, and we always talk about it. I mean, it's really just being around other people that have different mindsets, and um, that's like Ned. He was on the other week, and he has a very different, not a different, just different goals. Like he wants to fly the private jets and travel that way. Like he's looking at it like this is how much it costs for like 10 people to travel, because he's like, I don't want to just travel by myself, right? I want to travel with my friends or other people that are financially free or whatnot and enjoy together. So he's like, hey, if, for 10 people, it costs whatever, this much money a month, or this much for a trip, a private jet, right? So he's looking at it. My money or my income for the month has to be this much to offset all these costs. And that's the way he's looking at it. He's definitely looking at it more like a business where I want to build this business that has all this income coming in. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but that's definitely a great goal to have. But that's great being around someone else and seeing that and like, oh, this guy, he's striving for this, and I'm gonna probably take pieces of what he's doing, not to that level, but it just makes you think outside of the box.
And what's interesting about that is that you have that, right, where it's kind of more that lavish sort of lifestyle, which is great. And then Mark, you and I were on the live with Dion, and he has talked about how he house hacks, which you would think is actually a beginner's mode, but he actually sees house hacking as a way out, because where he house hacks, he's able to use that house hack to pay for the traveling. So it's kind of similar in this sense, but just different ways.
Right now, house hacking is the same strategy that I'm using right now. Right now, I've got a fourplex, live in one unit, rent out the other 3 units. So effectively, my mortgage payment's kind of taken care of on like just on that. So being able to get rid of what is, for most people is their largest expense and a living expense, it's you can eliminate the big expense, then you start working on the other expenses. That's one of the strategies I'm trying to do right now is kind of do a stepping stone where first I want the rental income I have to be able to pay all my month to month bills. So have enough rental income to that I don't have to worry about mortgage, that I don't have to worry about insurance, that I don't have to worry about utility bills, where the rental incomes take care of all that. So while I'm working at my job, all that money I'm making is down the line. What I'm hoping to happen is I'll be able to simply use that money for whatever I want. Like maybe I'll buy more properties with that money. Maybe I'll travel with that money. But first step I'm trying to achieve is to have my rental income essentially pay for my actual life or the primary expenses of my normal life. And then once that's achieved, then I can try moving on to the next level of okay, maybe I can get the rental income to now start paying for my luxuries, like start paying for my travel. But that's way down the line. That's like multiple years down the line. But just one step at a time.
Mark, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I think Ned's viewpoint on that is just kind of that a lot of us are almost like stopping at the expenses, where that's like our goal, like we're trying to get that covered, whereas he's looking at it from, I want this a certain amount of income, like almost a business, right? But he's also creating more work in a sense for us. So that's why, like Curtis, you mentioned Dion's name, and he brought that up. He said Dion is more like an investor, and he wants to be more like the lumberjack, where he's created
Mm.
this business, right? So, but there's different ways to it. But I would think, like Curtis, you'd want to travel private or for first class, at your size, right? For me, it doesn't matter too much, but for like you, I'm sure it's very uncomfortable riding in the back and stuff.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable for me and the people that I gotta sit next to, man. You should see the look on their face when they see me sitting next to them. They're like, "Oh no."
Um, Me, I'm completely comfortable flying coach, so my standards are not that high. I, I back the plane for me, 100% fine. As long as the plane still gets to the same destination, I'm completely happy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah,
Plus,
not
I've
no
realized
wrong
that
way.
I've noticed that a lot of times I go on international trips, even like the coach section of those international planes, they are much more comfortable than I'm used to on like national
Mm.
carriers. Where the first time I started flying over Europe, I knew it was going to be like an 8 hour trip for the first leg going from New Orleans to England. And I was dreading that at first because I figured it'd be like flying a national carrier where it's like these tiny seats, no leg room. If you're lucky, to give you water and crackers. Then I get to this international flight. It's like a big, cushy, like not huge. It wasn't luxurious, but it was definitely more enough room for me to be comfortable. They bring out a full meal, like a hot home cooked prepared meal. I think it was, I believe it was chicken curry the first time. So it was actually a very nice meal, and the flight went by very, very nicely because of that. Every single seat had a television right in the back. You can pick wherever you want. So it was much more like traveling internationally. Apparently, is much more luxurious than I thought it was going to be.
I didn't know. I didn't know that trade better. He's little on maybe on the Ned bandwagon. Like he agrees though. FatFIRE to bring family and friends on trips. But yeah, I mean that does make sense, right? Sometimes like Zuber talks about all the time. He stepped away from his job. He retired early, but then no one really in his circle at the time could do stuff with him, right, or hang out with him, and that's how he built this community and YouTube channel and whatnot. But that's kind of part of it too, right? If you retire early and none of your friends or your circle is retired early, I mean, there's only so much you can do, right, or pick up different hobbies. But you might find a different circle to be with, right? And I think that's the important thing is. But I think I'm more along the lines of I like the GeoFire with the barista. Not so. I mean, I don't need the business like Ned's looking for. Yeah, but I definitely first class is not. I mean, that's fine, or even private jets. That's great, but that's not what I necessarily need. Yeah.
Mark, you had touched on like Zuber retired and nobody else did, so he didn't really have like friends around. Well, I think that's kind of also part of the journey too, because I'm not sure about you guys, but how many of your peers outside of our community actually invest or sacrifice the way that you do?
That's definitely a pretty good point. Where a lot of people they simply don't invest. A lot of people they kind of got conditioned to just put in what you need to your 401k, like do the employee contribution match, and even that does even that's not the majority of people in the United States. I can't remember what the statistics I looked at before, but I think most people don't have your 500 or $1,000 for an emergency expense. They don't really have a retirement account. They kind of just expect Social Security to be there for them and help pay for all their expenses. But even from the very beginning, Social Security was never really meant to give people a means to retire comfortably. It was meant as a supplemental income to help them with retirement. But since it was implemented back in the 1960s, Social Security has a lot of people it seems to have turned into their primary like retirement strategy, which technically it is possible to live off Social Security, but I wouldn't say it's a very comfortable lifestyle if that's all you haven't plan on using.
Oh, late start has stopped by. Thanks, man. He's on 10 speed right now. He's catching up right now. But yeah, thank you guys for all stopping in. What do you guys think about the time? Is this time better, you guys think? I don't know. I mean, the earlier times definitely work better for me, but I can always squeeze some of these in. So I was just testing out the time too to see if we get a different audience or how much people pop in. I know it helps Curtis. He's done. He's finished. He's waking up around now. Oh, but until you go
Yeah.
back to teaching or until you go back to school when school
Yeah,
starts.
we start our back to teacher meetings next week for half the week, and then the week after that, school starts. And it's kind of interesting during summer break. I get a taste of what fire like looks like because I'm getting paid for work that I did,
Mm.
last year. And so, like, I still pick up kind of like side jobs or whatever, just for some fun money. But I'm kind of having a taste of what the fire is now.
Hey, wait, hold on So do you think, do you think that's kind of a trap? Because like you get this time off, so you're like, oh, I get to have this time off. I'm getting paid. So it almost like handcuffs you in a sense that, oh, I can do this. This job is great. I can do it for 30 more years because I only work 9 months out of the year or something.
Oh, definitely. When I talk to other teachers, because like I'll work with like football clients and that I train, or even during the school year, I'll work some like of like the weekends, and they just look at me like I'm crazy. They're like, "Why would you do that? Like, we have all this time off. It's really nice. Like that's partly why some people become teachers in the first place."
It's pretty similar to the setup I have where I'm only working 6 months out of the year right now. Go offshore for 3 weeks, work on an oil rig, come home, and I get 3 weeks to do anything I want. Uh, so it does kind of give a little bit of a taste of what it can be like to be able to wake up whenever you want on any given day, do whatever you want on any given day, just kind of wake up one day on a whim, decide, today I feel like flying to Japan just because I can. And having that freedom is definitely, it's intoxicating once you get used to it. I think that is like true wealth right there, is to for people who have the ability to wake up when they want and then decide what they want to do on every day they get, like they do wake up. uh, that is definitely an end goal for me. That is an end goal, to be able to do that 365 days a year rather than just half the year.
So we got two Buzz Tune and Janitor on Fire say they like this time best. So maybe we have to try and accommodate. Maybe do one a week at this time. But yeah, back to your thing, Curtis and Stan. Yeah, I think so. Even like the firehouse, I see it a lot. It's so easy to, and like I said, it is a great job. And if you did it for whatever 25, 30 years for your career, you would have had a great job, great career, great pension. It's just you get trapped. You really think that you don't need to do anything else, and where you can have the best of both worlds, right? You plan for an early retirement, you set yourself up that way. If you want to do your full fire career, then great, but always give yourself that option, like Jana Darrow mentioned, right? Recreational employment, right? You never know. Things could change. You could get a captain or chief that you don't like or don't agree with, and you can be at a station that you don't get along with the guys, and you can always just say, I'm done. Today's the day. I'm going to walk on, but I plan to have that option. And I think that's the one thing that I hope the younger guys realize is give yourself options. As great as the job is, and as much as you love it, it is going to take a little more effort and work. But the earlier you start it, the better you put yourself in position for. Hey, what's up, Troy? Did
I
you reach
think
out to
that's
Stellar Housing Solution yet for your midterm rentals? Yeah.
what was that?
No, no, Troy. The last live I did, I had some midterm rental folks on, and Troy was asking some good questions because he's thinking of kind of setting up a co-hosting midterm rental kind of business. So he was picking their brains on some topics. But you,
We
because
do.
you do, you can
Yeah, I
ask
do a little bit of
Stan
midterm
does
rental as
some of that
well.
too. But he's in
Uh,
an easy market though, because they just come to him over there.
well, right now we're more focused on the short-term rental than midterm rental, but we did start off midterm and we did try a little bit of seasonal midterm. Essentially, what we did on the first year, we owned our property in New Orleans. We knew that summer was our off season, so we were worried about getting any kind of uh, bookings with our Airbnb the first year. So what we did instead is we rented it out for 3 months to a local family while their home was being renovated, and that way we were able to have a steady amount of income coming in for that property during the kind of slower tourist seasons. This year we're trying to just go all in and go full short term rental, and the bookings that definitely slowed down. We'd probably get a little bit more if we were able to put a midterm rental in there. But at the same time, it'd be a lot more work to need to flip that unit afterwards. There's a lot of decorations that we put up for the Airbnb that we'd have to kind of take away, then put back up. So for now, we're just trying to see what it is like if we simply roll through summer, get through the lean months, and then be ready to go come September, come October. Uh, just go all in once we get back to full tour season. We already have pretty good bookings coming for October and November, and our January, February is looking amazing. So it's so far strategy is just just gotta get through 3 slow months.
What so when you furnish all of those, at what point is it like the break even? Like when you would, because well, I'm guessing you furnished
Yeah.
all of them. Yeah.
We always furnish. The market that we're giving out right now, it's a student market. We have the tourists that come that use the Airbnb or visitors come to Airbnb. But at the
Hmm.
same time, a lot of the long-term tenants we have are also students that go to nearby Tulane University. So one way or another, we're going to furnish the apartments. We also make sure that the furniture is pretty good, but we never go like we're not gonna go out there and buy $10,000 bed frames or $3,000 mattresses. We provide steady, good, like dependable furniture. Things like even Amazon Basics, they provide a very basic metal frame for $100 or $200, but it gets the job done. It provides a furniture where people can simply move in. They don't have to worry about buying their own furniture. They don't have to worry about getting the place ready for move in. They can literally show up with a suitcase with clothes and a toothbrush, and they're ready to go and start like, this next school year. So no matter what, we're going to always offer a furnished apartment to long and short term and midterm tenants.
So we got a good question here from BuzzTune. What do you think about stress testing your phi number earlier? Like the 4x for a smaller burn rate, 2x for a larger burn rate? Test it before those numbers to see or too risky.
It's always not a bad idea to test it. It's not difficult to make that test. Let's say that you know you have a certain amount of revenue coming in. Challenge yourself to only live off that revenue. Where, let's say you have, I'm just going to make up numbers. You have $40,000 in cash flow coming in from your rentals. You have $60,000 coming in from your job. I pretend that 60,000 doesn't exist. Like put it into a savings account, put it into a money market account. I put it somewhere, but essentially put it off to the side where you never have access to it and only live off that $40,000. If you're able to comfortably live off that $40,000, then that's a pretty good test run for that revenue stream. If you get to the point where you're not living very comfortably or you're not very happy with that lifestyle, then maybe that's a good indicator that maybe you need to have a little bit more passive revenue coming in before you can really go all in on the retirement portion.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Definitely test it before you take that leap. I can't imagine not doing that, not knowing for sure.
I say screw it. Just go for it. No, well, I mean, I'm kind of I'm kind of like test it, but I think at the same time, a lot of us that are trying to strive to retire early or whatnot, reach a certain number, we were building skills to where, if things fall short a little bit or we do have to pivot a little bit, I think we have the skills to where we can increase income still yet, as far as your ability to still do a house hack, or comfortable enough to do a house hack, or you know um, invest in the next property, or burst strategy. But I think most of us are building these skills to where we're not, because we're not relying solely on our W-2 or our job. Even if we were to maybe retire a little prematurely and things didn't work out as planned, we would be able to correct it in a sense, and overcome those struggles. But like for myself, and probably you, Curtis, you could probably double dip, right? Like you could use your summer to test it out, where I'm going to just live off of the rental income or passive income. I'm not going to touch whatever's coming in from my W because I'm on summer break. And you could,
Mhm.
like, oh, in a sense, you're double dipping, right? You're testing it out while
Yeah.
still earning that income, and see how that. So for myself, I could probably do the same too, where I have a lot of leave. I could take leave, right? I could take 10 months, or 5 months vacation, 5 months, or five days, 5 shifts sick, five shifts vacation, and I'd have the whole month off, right? Or something like that. So I wouldn't be using crazy amount of leave, but I only work 10 shifts a month, right? So I can take, sporadically take it, test it out, still be getting paid. But like you said, not touch that actual income that's coming in from the W-2 side, and just test it out that way. But this is probably for you, Stan, from Troy. Um, how are you marketing to the students?
It's not too difficult, especially with social media right now. If you go on Facebook, every single major college campus or every major college, they have student housing Facebook group or a students looking for housing Facebook group, something along those lines. So all I really do is create my normal listing on Zillow.com. I go into those groups and I just make a posting about my listing inside those groups. We usually wind up getting a pretty fair amount of responses from that.
Okay, so this one is from Late Start Wealth. So he says, I think it's a two-part question a little bit. So I will need to share my house, 3 bedrooms available, sharing 1 bath. Plan to have cleaning person and pest control. Was hoping to semi-furnish. And would you mix midterm and long-term roommate agreements?
For the midterm, anything 30 days and above, you need to have a lease in place. You need to have a contract that exactly determines how long they're allowed to stay there, under what conditions are you allowed to stay there, when rent is due. Everything needs to be lined out in the lease for you once you go 30 days and more. Because at that point they are a long-term tenant, they have a lot of tenant rights. So you need to make sure there is a contract in there that outlines what their occupancy is. Anything below 30 days, in a lot of places, you have to be very very careful about where you are getting your where your property is, because different areas have different rules for what constitutes a long-term tenant and at what point someone actually acquires tenant rights. So anything that's a short-term rental, that's usually just defined through Airbnb, where Airbnb is defining the length of their stay. Where if they have a contract with Airbnb to stay at a certain property for 4 days and they decide to stay at fifth day, once again, it really depends on what your local jurisdiction is and what your local laws are. If at that point you live in a region where they are considered a tenant, then you will have to go for the full uh, eviction procedure. If you're in a region where they have not yet acquired tenant rights because they've only been there a few amount of days, at that point you are able to proceed with a breaking and entering or a unlawful entry or unlawful. Uh, you're able to bring the law in to remove them from your property because they have not yet been deemed a long-term tenant. But once again, you have to really, really, really know your local laws.
I think from a tenant standpoint, would you want to be informed of this though? So like, would you want the lease to state like, okay, if you're signing a long-term lease agreement, would you want it to state like, yes, but there's also rooms in this building or this house that is being used as a midterm rental? So would you feel that that would be necessary in the agreement?
I think that's something you can put in the agreement, or at the very least, make sure that the tenant is aware of that arrangement. But what you do have to outline in the lease at that point is what is considered common rooms for your tenant, what is actually considered their own private room that no one else can enter. You have to be able to outline what the expectations are. If someone is showing up and to a 3-bedroom house and they're expected to have all 3 bedrooms as their access, if your lease doesn't state otherwise, then you are not in a very good legal situation. Where if they're entering a 3-bedroom house, you pretty much have to have something that outlines the lease that says bedroom number 2 is your private residence that you can do with as you will. The rest of these bedrooms are off limits to you, and here is the common area as outlined by the lease. So there will be other people in the living room. There will be other people using the kitchen. For things like that, yeah, that should definitely be outlined in the lease.
Yeah, not legal advice. Always check with your legal
Absolutely.
people, but definitely great advice. But I think the one thing that as what you're touching on, Stan, is I think having the one bathroom is going to be that tricky part. So that's going
Yeah.
to probably have a lot of detail you'd probably need in your lease agreement, letting the midterm person know as far as they're sharing a bathroom and like you're saying, what is the common areas and whatnot. But
Yes.
Troy also has a question for you, Stan. It says, how are you basing your rents in midterm for students?
Um, Troy, I can clarify what you mean by what? How am I basing the rents in midterm?
I think it's asking like how do you set them?
Oh, how to
Like
set the
what do you
price?
base? Yeah, yeah.
Okay, it's whatever market rate is. So I'll go on. Most people go on Zillow.com and they look at house to buy, but there's also a rental section. So go on Zillow.com in the rentals and just start looking at what other people's prices are for their rentals. Like how much are they trying to charge per month? Find if you have a 3-bedroom house, then do a Zillow search and filter for other 3-bedroom houses within your neighborhood. See if the people in those listings are offering, like let's pretend they're offering $1,200 for a 1 year. They're offering $1,500 for a 6 month. Then $1,500, that is your market rate for midterm rental in that specific neighborhood. So you always want to make sure you're pricing your listings based on the market. That's one mistake a lot of people do is they acquire a property and then they try making the numbers work after the fact. The numbers need to work before the fact. So before you even buy the property, you should already know exactly what the market rate is going to demand. You should know how much your properties or how much your units are going to bring in rent, and then you should know that if those numbers make sense, then you go along with the purchase. But if those numbers don't make sense, like let's say you have a mortgage of 5,000 and you know you need 6,000 to make yourself happy. If the market trades only 4,000, that's you're not going to fix it. Like eventually down the line, yeah, the rent is likely going to go up. So if you give it enough time, maybe the numbers will start looking better. But if the market rate is only going to give you 4,000, that's all you're going to get. You can't really price stuff above the market rate and hope that someone decides to move in just for sake of it.
Curtis, is any of your units by student?
No, right now mine is half like market renters and then half the military. However, I'm in the middle of trying to convert my unit from a 1 bedroom to a two. I'm deleting the living room and
Hmm.
going to turn that into like a bedroom. So the only common space that there will be is like the kitchen, the laundry room. It's like a closet area, and then the bathroom, and then there's going to be like a bar seating area for if me or them want to eat. And I've been thinking of what type of roommate that I want there because I haven't had like roommates since college, you know. So I'm trying to think of through of like, okay, what type of person do I think I'd vibe most with, and then how do I market to them. I'm about 10 15 minutes away from two colleges. I'm across from the base, so I kind of have options. I just don't know who I want to target yet.
Cool. Well, always having options. That's the great thing, right? Yeah. Well, until we get some more questions, let's go back to the fire topic then for now, I guess, as far as,
Well,
oh, which one?
I think there was a question from Trade Better, but it got missed in the
Oh, where was it? Where
midterm
was it?
talk.
Uh,
Oh
oh,
yes,
okay. Yeah, here we go.
for
Here we
reaching your
go.
FIRE goals, would you send your current future kids to school or homeschool so they can travel with you? Uh, I'd probably still go with private school. Uh, yeah, if I reach that point, my goal is I do have one kid right now. He's 3 years old. My plan is to send him to private school when I'm able. The main reason for that is I do think that the education you receive at school is vital, but at the same time, the social interaction you learn at school, I think, is as important as the educational side of it. So if you're homeschooling your kids, you're taking away from their peer group. You're taking them away from an environment where they're able to learn these social skills required to then be successful further in life. Because, man, I'm sure there's been many examples of like the C student growing up to be very, very successful. Because once you start reaching your career, a lot of it really does come to like what is your social skill level on in addition to what you're able to do. Like, can you get if you're trying to be a employer, if you're trying to build a business, do you have the skills to attract other people to you who would want to work with you in order to build a business? If you still want to be an employee, do you have the skills to attract managers to you that are willing and able to coach you up and mentor you so you can work your way up the corporate ladder? And I think all those social skills are pretty much crucial to be learned in school among your peers. So I wouldn't want to take my kid away from that opportunity to learn for himself.
Hmm.
Curtis, didn't you mention something? Was it you that for like sports,
Hmm.
they can still do if they're
Yeah.
homeschooled or something?
There's still a ton that kids can do if they're homeschooled through the school that they would attend as long as they live within like the boundary. And so I'm not sure how this would really work at the elementary. That's probably a little tough because there's less extracurricular at that grade level. But at like the junior high and the high school, as long as you live within the boundary, you still have access to all the programs that this school has. And I always thought homeschool was kind of weird up until I taught in it because I had taught on Zoom my first year of teaching. And then I've been seeing more of these like homeschool co-op type things where multiple families will kind of enroll their kid onto the same program, and they'll all do social stuff together. They'll bring in special teachers, or they'll all sign up for the same club or the same outside sports. So they're kind of crafting their own school almost.
That's what I was thinking. I wonder if you could get enough kids in the neighborhood to kind of be almost like a homeschool thing as a group. But yeah, same thing. I'm kind of back and forth. I don't know if there's, it's so hard to say what is the right or wrong way to do it. I don't think there is, but I think it's a certain age too, right? But like, I like the idea of trade better. When they're younger, I definitely probably would like that option. So like, maybe not for myself because it's kind of I'm behind the curve on this, but give that opportunity for my son. Hopefully, when he does hopefully he has kids at a younger age. Maybe for my grandkids, I can take part in it. But at the same time, the traveling aspect of it, right? Not worrying about having to be at school this certain month or whatnot. You can kind of homeschool, travel, and learn that way. And yeah, maybe when you start getting to that middle school or high school, you're gonna start maybe looking at it a little bit differently as far as enrolling them that way. But
I do think
that's
it's really important to be able to travel with the kid,
yeah,
simply because there's so much I've learned about other cultures, so much I've experienced going to different places, seeing how other places, how the people there live, just to get a more over encompassing idea of how the world functions. So I think with that, it's definitely a very good idea to expose your kid to that. Like, let him see how there's other places in the world, let them see how they live, so they can have a better understanding of more than just what's going on in their own hometown or what's going on in their own small region of the world.
Yeah, true. I think it opened your eyes to. I mean, I definitely haven't traveled a lot, and that's something I wish when I was younger. Same thing. My parents did the best they could, and that wasn't their thing traveling. But I definitely see the benefits of it. Even I don't know if you guys saw, I don't know if I didn't look at it. I don't know if I didn't fact check it or anything. But did you guys see like Brittany Grimer? So she was imprisoned or whatever for the what, weed, I think it was, in I think it was Russia or whatnot. But anyways, now at the time she was kneeling right for the national anthem before the WNBA games, and like most recently they showed her like standing, basically crying and realized, I mean, I think it opened her eyes to how different countries, kind of behave out there, right? And I think sometimes when you don't travel, you don't realize what's going on in other places and seeing maybe how good we actually do have it here, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of people in the United States, they view themselves as not having much, but it's because they're comparing what they have to what the people in the neighborhood over have. But they don't realize that there's so much, like, the amount of opportunity we have in the United States, and I'll keep saying this over and over. There's a ridiculously large amount of opportunity we have just by living in the United States that a lot of other countries really do not have that. So that's being able to travel does make me more grateful to see the opportunities that we do have. Uh, just having a pretty good public education system is a huge advantage that does not happen everywhere. Uh, Being able to have a good infrastructure that makes it easy to get around, even from the real estate side, something as simple as a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. That is such a giant, amazing advantage. And it's actually, we're one of the very, very, very few countries that have a 30-year fixed rate mortgage that is, offered to a lot of people. In many, many countries, I think it's, from what I recall in the research I did a couple uh, months ago, uh, it's us and France, I believe, are the only two countries where the majority of the mortgages are 30-year fixed. In a lot of other countries, it's adjustable rate interests are like the normal for them, where either 1 year adjustable rate, 3 year, or 5 year adjustable rate, where afterwards the rates begin adjusting or they have to refinance at that point. Think about what we've all been going through internationally for the last 3 years with what interest rates have done from uh, post pandemic to now. Interest rates went from 2.5 up to 6.7. So imagine you're living in one of these countries with an adjustable rate mortgage, and all of a sudden your rate's about to readjust. All of a sudden you were paying previously $1,500 for your mortgage. All of a sudden, due to no fault of your own and due to unprecedented levels of interest rate hiking, now you have to pay $3,000 a month. It's the same product, it's the same house, but your interest rates have just caused your mortgage payments to absolutely skyrocket.
Yeah, I honestly cannot imagine that. And it wasn't until this year that I found out that other places don't do the 30-year fixed.
Mhm.
But I can't imagine trying to do investing or house hacking or anything in our realm in those types of places. I feel like it would make it really difficult to try to um, climb up in the ladder.
It would definitely add like a degree of uncertainty and a degree of risk that is going to be very, very hard to compensate for. It's one of those things where, in the majority of cases, in most normal times, you can still like you can still kind of make it work. Just because historically interest rates have not jumped up to the amount they have in the last 3 years. Like, that was an unprecedented amount where interest rates just skyrocketed 5% within a year. So it's one of those things where people got used to the system because at most interest rates really fluctuated around 1%, maybe 2% in a given year. So it's an adjustment for them, but it's not an earth-shattering adjustment. But if you start talking about 5 or 6% within a 1 year adjustment, that's very, very difficult to overcome.
Stan. So Troy says you're using market rent for furnished rental.
You add a little bit more to that. Like if it's you still have Zillow where you can actually see which apartments are offered furnished and which ones aren't, are non-furnished. So it goes back to the same thing where you have to find a property that's very, very similar to one that you are offering. So if you have two properties that are comparison to, one's furnished, one's not furnished, and you're offering furnished, then you just make your price match what the furnished is also offering. It's always going to be market rate. It's just making sure that the market rates you compare yourself to are similar to what you are offering.
Well, Mackie Samuels, thanks for stopping by. I'm not sure if I've seen you here before, but yeah, please subscribe. Thanks for stopping by. Subscribe to all the other channels I've put in the comments. A lot of cool people to follow. But so his question, or would immediately moving to a less expensive country and working remotely be one good way to quickly save up and invest? I think
Oh,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
It's what I said at the very beginning. You have two options for achieving your FIRE. Either increase revenue or decrease expenses. If you go to some place where the cost of living is 1/3 of it is where in your area, you just decrease your expenses by 66%. That's a very, very good way to really supercharge your ability to spend all that extra money that you were previously spending. Put that towards investments. Uh, put it towards real estate. Put it towards index funds. Like all that. Like, don't allow lifestyle creep to kind of take over. Where don't find new junk to buy with that new excess income, but like, put a good use to that income. And that's definitely a very good strategy to really supercharge that initial savings.
Here we go. Janitor on fire, stirring the pot in the comments. But let's see. He says all extracurriculars should be privatized. Waste of my taxpayer dollars. Says, do we really need football, baseball, and band? No, we need personal finance classes. Curtis, is this as a football coach, teacher?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one. We are seeing more districts out where I work starting to have personal finance classes and making it a requirement to graduate, which is great. But I don't know if you guys remember how you were when you were in school. I'm really interested to see on how much of that is going to be retained, not only retained, but then acted upon. Because an example that I have is that in my health class, we watch Super Size Me, right? And it literally shows this guy's health just deteriorate within a month, right? And so we're watching this. And then the next day in class, a kid comes in with the chicken nuggets and, the Diet Coke or whatever. And great, and if that's what he likes, that's awesome. But how do we get these kids to also practice what they're trying to learn? And so I think a lot of that starts at home. Like, yes, it's great that if we could teach that, but how are they going to take that home? Because they're only with us for so long. They're only in that class for 50 minutes a day,
It's better to teach them to give them the opportunity to apply it than not teach them it at all. And
True.
by the same token, if we eliminate math, then I'm sure there's plenty of people who won't see any difference because they don't use math in day to day, but at least give them the opportunity to learn that subject and apply it to themselves. I think I've mentioned this on several podcasts before. I think that financial literacy class in middle school, high school I really think those absolutely should be mandatory. And I think that's one of the main ways that we are letting down the next generation is, especially with the cost of college. Like for me, growing up in middle school and high school, there was always the same exact jargon that every single teacher said. Just find a way to go to college, no matter what it takes. Go to college by any means necessary, and you'll be fine afterwards. And that no longer applies. If you're spending $200,000 to get a degree that's only going to pay you $30,000 or $40,000, you're locking yourself into perpetual debt for the rest of your life. And by the time you realize what you've done, it's already too late. At that point, the 200,000 that is on your name now, that can't be discharged in bankruptcy. You have no really way of digging yourself out of it. So I think having those financial literacy classes before you ask students to sign up for that amount of life changing debt, I think that is a should be a major step to that we take as a society going forward. Where if you're going to ask students to sign up for this kind of commitment, at least giving them an opportunity to know what they're signing. Like, what does all that paperwork mean? Right now, a lot of students they're handed the loan, and they're just asked to sign the bottom line.
Yeah, I think that's good, and I think that's also kind of where that homeschool talk comes from, because then you have a lot more flexibility. But it definitely should be taught. And a big district in our area, this district pays, I think, the highest amount, right, per teacher, per admin in our entire area. They recently got hit big time on social media because they just fired every single career and finance guidance counselor in the district. They got rid of the position. And their claim was that they couldn't afford it, which I don't think is true. But it's very interesting to see what each district is trying to do.
I was just gonna say that. I mean, we see how the government spends money and handles their finances. Do we really want the government getting involved with, I guess, teaching our children or kids about finances? So I mean, I definitely think there should be some sort of financial literacy involved. But now, who's teaching it or who's running it? I mean, that's kind of
Yeah.
the question, right? But I think the second part of Janner and Fire's comment is also as far as getting rid of the sports aspect, and that should be just private, outside of school. So like Mackie Samuel's comments, Janner and Fire school would be so boring for the kids without the extracurricular activities. Kids need much more than the basics to thrive. So like for you, Curtis, you coach football and stuff. If your schools got rid of these programs and it was going to just be like privatized or outside,
Mhm.
how do you think that would be?
Um, I can see the argument financially, because some funds definitely go towards those sports, but there are some kids that only show up because if they don't show up to school, then they can't go to practice. And
Hmm.
now, is that a majority? No, no, but those are probably the kids that need the school the most, And so it's something for kids to look forward to get them to pay attention in math class or history or whatever subject. It's kind of that carrot on the stick type of deal. Now, could things be ran more efficiently? Probably. But I think it's a good incentive to teach the whole child.
100% all for extracurricular activities at school. It goes back to the same place where I mentioned earlier. It's very crucial for students to learn to socialize in school. I mean, if you join a team, soccer team, football, baseball, there's a great opportunity to not only learn to socialize with one another, but learn to work together to accomplish a set goal. I mean, there's not a single football team I've ever seen whose goal isn't to win the championship at the end of the year. Hey, there's like my football team had 99 people on it. Hey, there's 99 people coming together, coming to practice every day, doing drills every day with the same end goal in mind of what do we need to do to help each other as a team reach this end goal, like winning this championship. I think that's a very important skill to learn, and great opportunity to do so.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge I would see is that when you have it privatized or outside of school, because I think there's a lot of people, including myself. I mean, I think I was decent or whatever, but I had opportunities to play because a lot of kids were going to private schools. So I was in a public school, so I was able to play sports because a lot of maybe the better athletes, in a sense, were at private schools. So now, if everything is outside privatized, it's like almost like those private leagues or whatnot. How many kids may not have that opportunity to play in a sense because everyone is kind of like a club league now, right? Where people are trying to win tournaments or travel teams and whatnot. So now kids that they want to play but may not be invited to these opportunities. So that would be the only way I would look at it is how many other people, other kids may not have the opportunity if it's not through the school system, right? So
Yeah, like my whole school is free and reduced lunch. It's just because the poverty levels so low. So if these kids are having a hard time trying to pay for food, uh, trying to pay for all the sports might also be tough.
I agree.
it's another
Late
late
start,
start
well start.
well. Yeah, I might have to dig into this more. I know Japan, I had like 100-year or 99-year mortgage or lease before. I don't know if they still offer that, but aren't there
I
some
have a little
country?
bit insight into that one.
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
not sure if it's the case in all countries, but one of the areas I was looking at buying property in the future for retirement is the Philippines. Over there, if you're not a natural Filipino citizen, you're not actually allowed to buy or own any actual land there. So what you instead need to do is you need to lease have a 99-year lease from a Filipino who actually lives there. So you have rights to use that land for 99 years, and then you have to spend additional money to develop that land if you so choose. So let's say you want to buy a $200,000 house. That means that you need to finance a $200,000 house on top of putting it onto a piece of land that you are leasing for 99 years. The downside to that, you can't really do generational wealth that way because at the end of that 99 years, the land, as well as any development you did to the land, goes back to the original owner.
Great insight.
Hmm.
Well, but I want to dig into that more. But hey, Nikki's here. Thanks for stopping by. She says hi, late to the party. She does have a question, probably for you, Ned. I don't know if this was already covered, but what furniture do you include in a furnished room rental?
I mean, kind of the basics. A bedroom, a work desk, dining room table, couch, TV stand. Just essentially the bare basic of what you would expect to see if you walk into a student dorm, essentially.
Let's see what else we got here. I'm making a joke to Nikki. I'm telling her thanks for stopping by still yet because she stopped by when I had a whole bunch of firefighters on and it turned into a political sex talking or whatever. It was raw and uncut. Um, let's see. Oh, the supersized guy just died a few months ago. Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, he died
Uh,
when we were watching the movie.
oh,
Yeah, the kids
See,
broke kids broke the news.
another question coming from Janner on Fire about the Philippines. You're right. You can buy condo in the Philippines as long as the population of the condo is 6% or more natural Filipinos. So they do have a lot of restrictions that are meant to protect the real estate in the country uh, for people who actually are from and live in the country. Like they're trying to prevent foreigners from coming in and really escalating the price of housing for them because the exchange rate is so like lopsided between the U.S. dollar and the Filipino peso. They're worried about people like for us. I, as an investor, buying a house for $200,000, that would be a dream. It's very difficult to find a house for $200,000 now in a lot of places in the United States. But that means if you go somewhere else and you're willing to spend $200,000, because that's not considered a lot of money to you, and you take that 200,000 and you try buying real estate in another area where the exchange rate is very favorable towards the dollar, it's essentially going to drive up the prices a lot in that region. So I applaud the country, like the government of the Philippines, for putting those measurements in place in order to protect the housing market for their citizens. I think that is definitely an admirable thing for them to do. I think there are several other countries in that region that do similar measures. So that could be, I don't know for sure, but that might be other countries that do something similar to that 99-year lease.
Yeah, I'm gonna dig into it more, get more information for you folks, and see if we can figure out what other countries have, or somebody is investing in other countries, and maybe I can get them on. But Nikki, my daughter had personal finance in the 11th grade, but I don't know if it was effective. It needs to be reinforced at home. Yeah, I think that's very important. I think definitely, like you said, hopefully schools can have something, some basics, but then
Mm.
definitely reinforced at home. And I always go back to it. And I really love when Zuber was talking about it. He was talking about how, like, even when they travel, try to get your kids to realize, like, the rental income is paying for this trip, right? Or whatever we're doing, like this property's rental income or cash flow is paying for this particular activity. So at least they start seeing how money coming in is paying
Yeah.
for the lifestyle that they're doing.
And
Um,
what's kind of sad is I think even if we did like a family night or like a parents' night where, like, oh, come learn about finance with your kid, is I think it should kind of surprise you and be sad on how few would actually show up.
I think a lot of people, just the culture we have in the United States, talking about your money or family money or how much money you make is kind of just taboo. So I think it's because a lot of parents or a lot of families, they'd be concerned about needing to walk into an area and then talking about their personal family finances. So I think there's like that bit of a taboo that would prevent a lot of people from being willing to talk about that openly.
so late start Welt says 99 people on the team. My graduating class was 84 people.
My graduating class was 864 people.
Woo.
And the reason I know that we had more than 99 people on the team initially is because we didn't have enough jerseys to give out to everyone. So we had jerseys numbers 0 to 99, and we had, I believe, 112 people trying out for the team. The coach, he refused to cut anyone. If you show up, you practice, you work your ass off, you're on the team. So instead, the first week of training camp every summer was made very, very, very difficult. So we always wound up having 10 or 20 people that quit on their own. So we wound up having enough jerseys for everyone that way.
So yeah, so we got, Matt's here, Mojo Mindset. I see he's doing some work on one of his places, but I do have to mention, because people keep reminding, I didn't mention Crocs yet, but there was a 50% off sale on Crocs. So go check it out, people, if you haven't bought your Crocs for Vegas yet. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah,
I'm
hey,
gonna have
so
to
Curtis,
head
what
out.
is your biggest team you're on? Like
Oh, I
player wise?
mean, once you're in college, then you have tons. I think college was over 100, but in college you're able to double up the numbers as long as they're not on the field at the same time. But my high school team was small, man, and we were bad too. We lost like 27 games in a row. It was bad.
I'm gonna have to head out in a few minutes to pick up my kid from school, so I'll probably head out quarter
Yeah,
after, so another four
cool.
minutes.
Yeah, we'll go maybe a little bit more, 10, 15 minutes, and you just bounce whenever we gotta go. This is a good one. Maybe people like this time better. I don't know. Seems like there's more interaction going on today.
I know.
But Wealth
Uh,
Building Journey
I
says,
got
what is that?
Mojo saying save a spot in the condo. He's half Filipino. No reason that I know about that entire policy is because my wife is Filipino. So that's one option we have, is to be able to buy property through her in the Philippines in order to retire there. So we still can buy a property because she is a Filipino citizen.
Nice. How do GCBs work in the Philippines?
That part I have no idea. Like my goal is to, yeah, I'm not really sure about that one.
Yeah, we'll dig into it, and maybe we can answer that for another time. Hold on, let me screen save that so I can write those comments down. See, I don't just wing shit. I try to answer your folks' questions at some point. Let's see what else we got here. We have Mojo Mindset. I need that Cybertruck. Laying down sod in due time. 27 in a row. He said for you. That's for you, Curtis.
Yeah, that was rough.
Yep, Crocs. Rural King has some on sale. He says. Just women and kids though. $3 and $5. I could only live in Baguio, Philippines, because it's the only place that's not. I don't know. Is that true, Stan?
It's warm over there, but then again, I live in New Orleans. It's warm here. I can 100% guarantee, like right now, we have 100% humidity, about 105 degrees. It is toasty. So if I can get used to living down here, I'm pretty sure I can get used to living most tropical places.
No, thank you, man. I'm not interested in that hot of stuff, man. It's like 70 something here, and I'm happy.
Uh, we have air conditioning that get us 270.
Oh, there. Let's see. I heard there were some stringent requirements to own one, and they're exclusive. So GCB is good class bungalow.
Yeah, I've got no idea how those work over there, so that's something I'd have to go out of my way to research.
Oh, Curtis, this is Stan. How do you break it down to your younger players that all they know is losing? How do you redirect the culture?
So, unfortunately, I graduated before the culture got redirected, but this is a great question. Um, and what I do as a coach now, luckily, the place that I coach at, we win a fair amount, but is you start with the younger kids because the older kids like their effort is important too, but if they only have a year left, there's only so much that they can do. But when you focus with the younger kids, it's like, hey, like start building like the habits and more mental thought, the mental side of it, and really just attack like the process. Um, and then maybe you like schedule an easy game that first game of the year to kind of get the confidence up. That's the coach trick right there.
I'm gonna have to head out to go pick the kid up, but thanks for having me, and hopefully get to see everyone again here sometime soon.
All right, Stan. Thanks for jumping on, man.
Thank you.
Let's see. I appreciate coaches. What does Mojo say? I appreciate coaches, some of the most influential and toughest people that wanted the best in me. I remember coaches who are, yeah. Yeah, I think that's the hard part, right? And it's just like even like real estate or finances, right? There's not one way to do it, right? I mean, there's different coaches out there that may relate to different people, and just like real estate doesn't relate to everyone. Stock, same thing. And the great coaches are the ones that can really adapt to their players, right, and figure out what's going to work, right. And I think that's the key. And it's just like same thing, right? You knowing yourself and you're investing or what you want to do with your life and figuring out how you're going to accomplish that is super important, and not trying to fit yourself into someone else's box, right, or system, right. So you got to really test things out and fail. Be willing to fail. I think that's the biggest thing, is willing to try new things. And we primarily talk about real estate because I think that's where our community is focused on. But there's a lot of people doing it with stocks. Same thing, starting a business, crypto, whatever. But it's really just finding who you relate with and understanding. I think the biggest thing for me is like real estate is so much easier to understand, I think, than the other asset classes in a sense. Let's see. Buzz to Mikey took me a second. Oh, yeah. I have everybody's links saved. That's why. So I just pop it in there. Whoever pops in, I try to promote their channels. Everyone's doing cool things out there. So, and Ike stopped by. So if you guys haven't checked it out, I interviewed him. Ike is definitely trying to put himself out there a little bit more. He's He says he's an introvert, but he's not. He's not too much. Hey, Kobe's here. Oh, question for he wants to probably know, when are you a Chicago Bears fan? Because he's a Bears fan. Hey, what's your
Nah.
oh? He says, what are your favorite books or influences to help you be a better coach leader? Mike Ditka.
Ooh, that's a great question. Did it, I didn't really read much about him. And I know that was a Bears joke, but I was really into Nick Saban when he was at Alabama, and I have his book, and it talks about the stuff that he learned kind of as a kid, kind of growing up as an athlete. And when you hear him talk now, it's a lot of the same stuff that his coach taught him when he was a quarterback for his youth and his high school team. And so Saban stuff has been really helpful. Um, Belichick too, kind of just do your job. That was really helpful, especially when my team, when I was playing, we lost, the 27 games in a row. Well, I could focus on that and be sad, or I could focus on doing my job and make sure I was still successful. And so that's kind of the things that I take now when I coach my athletes is like, hey, let's really focus on attacking the process, because that's what you can control. And if we do the process right, at the end of the day, the outcome will kind of be there.
So, are you ready for me to kick your ass in fantasy football too? We got our draft coming
Oh,
up soon.
oh man, I could go 1-15 as long as that one win is against you. I am happy.
You know what I want to do too is I want to get a belt, because we should be we should be done by the time the ORAD event is.
Okay.
So I want to present the championship belt to the winner at the ORAD
Yeah.
event. That should be
Just make
fun.
sure that it's big, so that way, if and when I win it, then like I could still wear it.
It's gonna have a big Chicago bear on the front of the belt. That's gonna be the logo for our league. Yeah. But did you ever connect with Kevin to play the college football?
I did not. I gave him my stuff, but he didn't
Mm.
or reach out.
Oh,
It was interesting. Last week, I actually played an athlete and that I train.
oh,
He's he
trophy.
he plans on playing at UW and next year, so it was really cool to kind of connect with him.
Oh no, Kobe says Trophy Smack sells some sick belts. Oh, okay. I should be. I'm gonna go look into it now. Yeah, I have time. I should win this league probably. Should be easy. But yeah, what you got what you working on then? What do you got going on the rest of the week before we wrap things up?
Yeah, so as of this month, all my units are filled, so that's good. It's kind of a sigh of relief. And then this week, I'm trying to finish the design and kind of the layout of how I want things to look for the conversion, and trying to make things a little bit and nicer so I can draw in a good roommate. When I will get that roommate, I'm not really sure. I'm trying to do a lot of the work myself, so it's kind of like a learning process there. But once I get the roommate, I'll basically be living back for free again. So that's kind of the end goal.
Chester, here we go. Chester, UW, University of Washington. Yep. Yeah, I don't know. You want to wrap it up with what's your thoughts on David Green
Oh,
being quitting, let go, whatever he did with Bigger Pockets, or this whole I guess drama scenario going on? You have any thoughts on that?
yeah, it's been really interesting to kind of follow the drama. I didn't really connect with David Green the best out of all the hosts. Um, his take on the cash flow thing was kind of inconsistent, and I didn't really jive with that too much. Have you been following him and Zuber and the Lumberjacks stuff?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, same thing, right? I mean, he's not for everyone. Same thing like Zuber. There's a lot of people that don't agree with Zuber or Lumberjack, and everyone has their haters or doubters. And but it's interesting. It is definitely interesting. Um,
Did you see what the Mojo said?
Yes, you're too political. Oh, maybe he said polite. He was going to put quitting viewership down. It's called. Well, I don't know if he fired, quitting, whatever you want. But hold on, I got to go back to this one. Crocs belt. That is going to be what it is. It's going to be that's going to be the trophy. That's going to be Crocs with a.
Oh man.
But so BuzzTune came up with that. Um, but yeah, I mean, maybe it's just different directions too, like we kind of talked about, right? Because I don't know if you guys saw some of his videos after, but I swear it was just all about his companies or his brokerage or his funnel. And I'm just like, man, this video could have been like 20 minutes, but it was like 40 minutes because half of it was him promoting his brand or his products and whatnot. So it is kind of difficult to listen to some of his things because there's so much kind of sales pitch seems like in there. And yeah, so definitely let's see, wealth building journey. Yep, cash flow is so much X more important than appreciation. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's kind of
And
where our community's at, right?
yeah, and not to all hate on David Green, like some of his stuff where he talks about kind of his hustle and his grind at the beginning, where he would pick up shifts or he found out ways to earn extra tips at the restaurant he was at. So there are nuggets in there, but I think you have to look at some of his older stuff to kind of really find it as opposed to what he's put out of late.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's kind of how you see that progression for a lot of people on social media, right? Their message not necessarily changes, but their audience has changed, is who they're trying to target, right? Because
Mhm.
like you said, that message in the beginning of his stories is great, but it seems like he's focusing on a different audience now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I stick around. Hey, where did it go? Here, since Mark's not selling his courses on how to wear Crocs. Yeah, nobody wants to wear Crocs. I can't believe it. BP is losing audience, so they are shaking things up again. Yeah, yeah. The older stuff definitely was more relatable. Yeah,
Mhm.
Ashley Kerr would be a great host for BP. Yeah,
Is she the one that does the
the
rookie show?
rookie. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
with
that show's great.
yeah. Brandon Turner, cash flow quadrant analysis. He remembers that. Mojo says he remembers that. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, yeah, they definitely had some great content. I think they kind of lost their way a little bit and kind of got caught up in other things, and maybe they're trying to pivot and just trying to start fresh. But yeah, David Green has his followers. There's, same thing. There's people that, they just follow him and love his content. But yeah, he seems to have a different message now a little bit. But yeah, well, this was a great live. I
Yeah,
think this time worked well for a lot of people. Got a lot of new people tuning in, asking questions. Mojo is avoiding me though. I don't know. He's not going to be on this week. He hasn't let me know, but we should be getting Sierra back on Thursday. I think she's gonna. Hopefully, she said she can do it on Thursday. So Sierra and I think Chris is gonna be here. Invest LYH is gonna be here Thursday, and trying to get one more person to hop on Thursday. But
nice, nice.
yeah,
Yeah, I know once school starts, I'm really only going to be available after 2. So
after 2 your time. No wait,
yeah, yep, 2,
after
2.
2. So what is that? That is 11 o'clock my time, right?
So,
2 your time. Yeah. Okay.
mm,
Yeah, I mean, we'll work something out because I think this time does work better. I try to get different, audiences too, right? Hit
mhm.
different people. Oh, now he's saying he can join on Thursday. Why? Because well,
Called him out.
we'll see if I can fit you in. Let me see. I'll see if I can squeeze you in on the ticket, Matt. But I don't know, Matt. Were you here? We're talking about handing out the fantasy football trophy or Crocs trophy at the event. Let's see. Mackie Samuels is here. Thanks for sticking around, man. Or her, I'm not sure. But yeah. Ultimately, good parenting is key for children to learn financial literacy. Yeah, very true. And Chester, yes, Chester, 3 hour time difference. Yeah. Matt, I pay premium. All right. All right. Well, this was a fun one. Thanks for everyone stopping by, subscribing to all the channels, smashing that like button. And yeah, we'll do this again. Oh, thanks, Hyder. Oh, I put Hyder's channel in there. He had a little lull because he was in Alaska. So we got to pick up the momentum again for his channel. His was growing quickly, and then he went to go catch fish or do something in Alaska. So do some crazy stuff up there. But we got to hear. I don't know if he did his food barge idea thing that he was thinking about. But thanks for always tuning in, Hyder, man. We'll get you on one day. But thanks, everyone.